My next guest is Diana Dentinger. 30 years ago, Diana came from Chicago to Torino in the north of Italy. She works with executives as well as entrepreneurs, and energy is her mission, to get you to live your life to the maximum energy and boost your self-confidence. And she does that by helping you to discover who you really are. She also is an executive coach and trainer of other coaches. Let's have a listen. This is the Expat Business Hero podcast, and I'm your host, Alex Congdon.
There are two values, and this is based on predictable psychosomatic illnesses. People either develop a psychosomatic illness that belongs to a big, huge category or the other big, huge category. And these two values are either stability or freedom, and they cannot coexist. Every person must choose which value is their primary value.
Oh, I'm in trouble then.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everyone will choose freedom, because we're sold on freedom so much more. It is marketed to us. It is, the majority of things, it's more enticing to see the person running on the beach and hands up and, they feel, and they're at the top of the mountain and they're looking out at the vast horizons. That sells more than the person, sitting in a chair.
That's true. Being stable.
Being stable, even though there is that part of the market of, the stability is get your roots and have your home. But it comes out when I profile people on their personality, which is their core value. And if they don't live their core value, they will develop the psychosomatic illnesses on the tissue layers that I know, and, the backache or the high cholesterol or the diabetes or the neck ache or they'll develop those when they're not aligned with their core value. So for us, we would hope, and for the rest of the people listening, we would hope that freedom is 100% part of your core value. And from there, you can choose two different places in what I call the ecosystem. So we can go through that.
Absolutely. Well, I think a lot of people listening are up for the freedom thing. I think that's definitely where a lot of them are going to go. So they want to listen to that. So, all right, Diana, I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
And just for a bit of fun, because I like to start off with a little bit of fun, just to warm things up. And I know you're in Italy. I used to live in Italy as well, so we know what it's like living there. So I got some 5 little true or false questions to ask you.
Okay, good.
Italian stereotypes, and I got to be careful because my wife's Italian as well. So, but anyway, that's the fun bit, isn't it? So you just tell me true or false, or why you, or if you're struggling to answer, tell me. Okay, so Italians are the worst drivers in the world.
They're the best drivers in the world because you have to be really good to drive in the chaos of Naples. Of course they're good.
Excellent. Okay. Italians are habitually late.
Italians value flexibility more than on a paradigm of time is money.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, it's a cultural value. They value flexibility like they value relationships. And this time is money punctuality thing, culturally in the consciousness, is not really present. And it's really nice.
Right, next question. Italians talk with their hands always.
Oh, yes, and so do I. I love the gesturing. There's so much more. Well, because you've been, when someone says, you understood the whole conversation.
You were gesturing, just.
Yeah, you just gesture, you do the hand under the chin or the
Yeah.
Bo, which is sort of like, you lift your chin up in the air, bo, and then, the hand together, like all the 5 fingers together, 4 fingers with the thumb together and sort of shake it. It's like, oh, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah. It makes communication. Well, because go back in communication, nonverbal says more than verbal.
There you go.
Yeah.
We need to learn something from them, I think. All right, final one, controversial one. Maybe if for all the Neapolitans out there who've got an opinion on this, spaghetti carbonara is made with cream inside. Do you put cream in your spaghetti carbonara?
No. For like 3 or 4 people, you would put 6 egg yolks.
Very good.
And do the pancetta and cut it around. No. And I tell you one thing, I'm not a really big cook, which has given my children the opportunity, my 4 kids, it has given them the opportunity for them to become outstanding cooks. Because if they want to eat good food, they got to learn how to make it. And so they have an awesome recipe from carbonara.
Okay. Well, thank you for clearing that up.
Oh, gosh.
Good. Okay, Diana, I want to ask you, could you just tell us, about your business today and why you chose to start it?
Well, I chose to be a freelance trainer, coach, if you want to call it that, because when I very first moved to Italy, first I lived in Germany. So I lived in Germany for 4 years. And then when I moved to Italy in the end of 1988, the first obvious job was go teach English in companies. And I lasted like 6 months teaching English in companies. And I realized these people don't need English. They need team building. They need a consultant to come in and help them with their behavior, because there was so much of that, we call the chiacchiere nel corridoio, which is, the talking in the hallways, the gossiping, the doing things in front of the coffee machine, and no clarity of communication to help them reach their results. And, after 6 months, I was like, okay, and I'm very, let's say, intuitive, or if you want to call spiritual. And, I just sort of like asked the question, I put the question out there to the universe, and I'm like, okay, what can I do to be a consultant? And after very little time, an answer come. My dad has always been in human resources. So he was always human resources director. So I grew up with all of those books, like, how to make friends and influence people. And I grew up with all that in the 1960s. And so an opportunity came to be certified in a behavior change kind of coaching program with one of 4 behavior types. And I started that right away. And so since I already knew people in companies through the English, then it was sort of easy just to step in to say, hey, I'm taking consulting quite a bit further. Let's get team building. Let's get the communication skills up. Let's work on internal communication. And then you might even remember, in Europe back in, the 90s, there was the boom of the call centers. They were finally having, the 800 numbers. In Italy, we call them green numbers, il numero verde. The green number, which I guess green is the heart chakra or whatever. And so there was a boom in really having to understand what the client wants. And so, for me, it was very easy because I was an expat, because I was American, because so much from the personal professional development industry is American. Very often I feel that I was sort of the obvious choice for certain clients because they didn't want the same culture to be training them in their organization. They wanted the American spirit. They wanted a know-how that was fresher, that was newer, that was more innovative, that was from a country that was, leading edge in personal professional development. So, I have to say, against a lot of odds, because even some friends, and at that time, my husband, who's ex-husband, and now you probably know why, he said, but you're not recommended. You didn't grow up here, because that's a cultural thing. and this is important for expats to understand the culture you live in. It's sort of a cultural thing here in Italy that it's a really big emphasis on word of mouth, and it's who you know, and that person can open that door and you can be recommended, raccomandato.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were telling me, yeah, but you didn't go to school here. You don't know anyone here. You're not going to be raccomandato. And I could beat that system because of the country I came from, for sure, because of my personality, for sure, because of, my preparation. And I find with expats, you really can leverage when you're doing business, especially in a country that you're living in, you can leverage the perception that the culture you're living in, the perception they have of the country you come from.
Use it to your advantage.
And leverage that in the type of choice of business. So, I mean, you could be, I go often to India for business, and you could be, someone in India living in Switzerland. And because they understand that culturally India is a more developed spiritual country, then when you add a meditation practice, even if you are a high-end CEO executive coach, you add that practice and it's like a no-brainer. It's like, well, yeah, of course, that person who has that kind of experience, but also that culture, is going to insert things from their culture that are universal truths that work sort of across the board, that are proven, if you want to call it. There's a lot you can leverage as an expat because, and this is really important, because you live there, but you don't belong. So we're on Maslow's, get everyone into thinking the Maslow hierarchy of needs. You can't belong to a culture that you didn't really grow up in. It's not in your DNA. It's not in an imprinting phase in the first 5 years of your life. And so you are so much more objective, observing the real needs that help those people. If you are, in coaching or service offering, you really can observe objectively what can take them to the next level, which is hard if you are of the same culture and in the same invisible dynamics of the same people. You really don't have that objective viewpoint because you're both swimming in the same kind of water. You really can't get it. And so, especially in my industry, I recommend everyone who is in, training or coaching to study Gert Hofstede, the Gert Hofstede Institute in Amsterdam, because I've done in companies even cross-cultural behavior, and learn these cultural dimensions, what they are. And that's what, in the questions, where Italy and southern countries have more appreciation for people and relationships, they're relation-oriented, they're not time is money-oriented. And so, especially if you're working in a country that has a totally different dimension or perspective on how things are done, which is a cultural value plane, you can't push too much your own cultural values because it disrupts too much the mental scheme that people have. You need to get them aware of the two contrasting, like time is money or relationships are key. Those are two contrasting dimensions, right? Or individuality and collectivism. So there's a lot. I enjoy, because of being in this industry so long. I really enjoy being as informed as possible, because I have clients in 20 different countries, and I understand that there's buttons you can push to help people get to the next level, and there are some things that could appear less beneficial because of my background, but you really have to, appreciate the person in there, where they come from.
Now, in your last podcast, you were really on this theme of energy, and I can tell you have a lot of energy yourself. But for the struggling, I guess, entrepreneur setting up, they're away from home. Have you got any ideas or advice about how they can sort of raise their energy game or their self-confidence game? Because I think those are really key components.
Well, I'm going to, without selling, this is not to be considered a sales pitch. It is a know yourself. Greek philosophy, know yourself. Because when you really do know yourself profoundly is when all that monkey mind voice and all that confusion or doubt, it just dribbles away. When you are clear on who you are and why you're here, that clarity in itself brings meaning into your body, and meaning is what creates energy. So meaning, significance, it makes sense. All those things on a mental plane, when something makes sense, you're like, oh yeah, gosh, I get it. Then you're motivated to do it. And that's how you get energy, because something is meaningful to you. I mean, think about you're planning on going vacation in a week. Because that vacation is meaningful, you will probably have a lot more energy the week before to tie up the loose ends, to get the stuff done. You'll be running on a different kind of energy, which I don't feel is the adrenaline. I don't feel that it's aging or it's bad energy. It's because the meaning that's intensified to get stuff done so you can really relax on your vacation puts you in a higher drive, puts you in a more focused way. But we can be that way every day without the urgency of the deadline to just, go on vacation or to finish a project. You really can be that way every day when you understand who you are. And it's meaningful for you to be you.
So it's really important then, the choice of or attaching some meaning to whatever activity or business that you're trying to do. I mean, you always that link, you're going to struggle, I guess.
You must always know there is a deeper reason why. So you can give yourself the reason why, which is mental. And, you know a little bit about my story, that after years of using these behavior models, that you're one of 4 types, or you're one of 8 types, or you're 4 of 16 types, I was like, no way, Jose. I come from a family of 250 blood relatives, and everyone is a unique individual. And so that's when I went back to study as a psychosomatic illness therapist, which is the root of how I created this, what I find, the only scientific-based personality profile. And in that, being that it is based on inherited emotional memory that you get in your DNA at conception, this could be a mind blower for people. When you're conceived, you receive emotional memory. That is your purpose in life. And when you connect to why you are here, which is in your DNA, that's how you really have energy. And, examples are, for example, you could find very often a reason why in something that's very painful or that bothers you. There was this one woman, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I can't, believe, God, since I got a divorce, it seems like sort of, I'm not being respected as much, or, my older brother just tell me, oh, what do you know, shut up," even though she's like an adult. and she feels like she blocks her communication. She just shuts down. So this is an example of emotional memory. Okay. Because for entrepreneurs, you will really want to be leveraging your emotional memory, because it is exactly why you're here and what bigger kind of thing you're actually solving for people. But you're not solving it for people because it's out there. It's because it's inside of you. So I look at her personality profile. This is an example of inherited emotional memory. I look at her personality profile and I say, okay, I'm going to ask a really direct question. What I see as predictable facts in your genealogy could be that your grandfather had a secretary, he had a secret love life with the secretary, and they always traveled together. She's like, how do you know that? And I said, because I see that. And isn't that funny that what she does is women empowerment, and she's becoming a public speaker? Because why is she actually speaking? Because the grandfather could never speak about the woman that he loved. And so in her journey of becoming a public speaker to help women reveal their secrets of depression, of not feeling enough, and their love and their relationship with themselves and others, it doesn't come because she watched some inspirational video. Oh, wow, I'm going to become a speaker. It's because it's in her DNA. And it's a lot deeper than people imagine. It is so fun when people get to the depth of that kind of information, Wow.
So, before we came on air, we were talking about freedom, and I'm just curious, for you, how important was, I guess, the freedom and flexibility that came with having your own business? As you started out and you were raising your family and you had, obviously all the children as well, 4 children. How important were those values for you?
Oh, freedom is my top value. But, we talked about that. I'm going to do some training on this podcast if I can. This is really important for entrepreneurs.
Go ahead.
All entrepreneurs right now, you make a choice. Which value is more important? 1, stability. 2, freedom. You must choose. This is very, very important. And then get out a piece of paper and draw circle 1, like create a path. Do circle 1 and then do a little path. Do a circle 2, do a little path. Do a big circle 3 with circle 4 inside of it. And then the path usually continues with the same person that did circle 2, and then you do like another circle 1. This is what I call the ecosystem playing field. Everything that we have begins with an idea. Everything we have begins with, look at the technology, with the guy in the garage sitting by himself, envisioning a better future. So the guy in the garage is the visionary. A visionary is a freedom seeker. So if you are an entrepreneur who is a visionary, you're the one setting up whole new schemes of thought, whole new ways and inventions for people to improve their life. What does that require? It requires that you give up any need for stability and that you sit in that garage, or you dedicate as much free time as you can to being by yourself and alone. Now, as a psychosomatic illness therapist, when I take big name people, I've never met Steve Jobs, but look at Steve Jobs. Do you think that he was happier in the garage or as the CEO of a multinational? Being, from my observation, a visionary, he was happier in the garage by himself. But he took on to building this kind of empire, which meant that he had to give up his freedom to create a business which is brick and mortar stability, which gives stability to other people, because there's a lot of responsibility as a stable leader. Because a leader in a company is who makes sure the company works to give stability, so the people that work for the company have a stable job and a stable income. So you take someone like Steve Jobs, and based on my research, I never met him, he never filled out my personality profile, but observing his illness and what took him to his deathbed is because he was out of place. So as an entrepreneur, you better be in your place. And if you're a visionary, and you've got a great idea and you want to set up a big business, make sure you've got an amazing CEO who runs that whole business. And you stay in the garage and you envision and you just give your ideas to those people. And so the second person, because we talked about, there's the circle number one is the visionary. They need a lot of time alone. They don't need to be into the day-to-day kind of things. They got the vision. They're seeing 5 years ahead of time. And I've had a lot of clients like this, and they feel very misunderstood because they're like, I've got this great idea. Why don't people get it? Why? Because you're a visionary and they'll get it in 5 years. But you need then the second person, which is also a freedom person. So we're moving from on the ecosystem, what I call the ecosystem playing field, on the journey on this path. Everything starts with a visionary. If you identify yourself as a visionary, yes, you are an entrepreneur. You will need help communicating that. So the second person on this path is who I call the consultant. The consultant is also a freedom person. And tying that into what I said before is it's being you're a freedom person, you can go into a company, you don't belong there. So you have a very objective view on their problems and issues because you're not part of their thing. And so the consultant is a very important person in this playing field as a freelance entrepreneur, because usually what that person does is take the idea of the visionary and in an independent way packages the idea of the visionary. They bring it a little bit more down to earth, the to-do kind of steps, and then they go sell that idea to companies, someone who produces it. They don't want to be a part of that company. They don't want to, they just either take their idea as a freedom person or they take a visionary idea and they go offer that as a consultant to the big circle, which is the mass of the people. The mass of the people are stability people. Real entrepreneurs are the first two, either the visionary, the guy with the idea. And so you need to get the second consultant on board on your team to go out and sell your idea, or you're just a consultant like me. I play between both roles because of, highly sensitive, intuitive abilities. I download a lot of information. I have voices that talk to me, let's call it like that. And in my experience, I found that there's a lot of us who are both visionary and consultant freedom kind of entrepreneurs, that we are guided by some kind of intuitive voice, some kind of instinct. If you're more religious or spiritual, you might call it some kind of higher self, whatever languaging it is. And I've found in a lot of the clients that I have that are serial entrepreneurs, they have not come to terms yet with their intuitive abilities. And that is their biggest asset and the biggest innate talent that they want to develop more to have more confidence. Because it's actually in the clarity of that flash image that the majority of entrepreneurs will get, because the majority of entrepreneurs are guided by some kind of higher energy. I don't know if you can agree with that or you can give me your take on that. Coming to terms that, yes, right when you open your eyes and there's that flash of something to do, you got that information of that flash of something to do because you're the person called to get that done in this life. And you got that when you're like just waking up in the morning and you're not really here yet, but you're in intuitive space, or you get it taking a shower, you get a flash of an idea. Those are precious. I am, because we talked even before, productivity and getting things done is very important. What guides the importance, in my experience and in my experience coaching a lot of entrepreneurs, is that if you're not totally comfortable with something, it means you need to ask the question, before you go to sleep. Give me clarity during the night in my dream. When I wake up, give me some kind of symbol about what to do, and that answer will come. And when that clarity comes, it's because you've gotten the real meaning. It's because the picture is clear, and somehow it's then you can get things done in a half day because there's the flow of the energy, because it's guided, because it's intuitive, because it's instinctual. All the pieces come together because of that, guidance. Or there's something I find, part of you, but somehow outside of you, this part of you that will give you messages about the best thing to get done, and in the time it can get done. And that's all about the energy thing. Why so many entrepreneurs are browbeating themselves on a how-to kind of path, how to set up a website, how to do public speaking, those are such low-level answers, low-level questions. Get who am I? Why am I here? Those are high-level questions that are high level than answers. And through the clarity of those answers, the how-to comes so easy because it's guided. Now, we were still talking about the freedom or the stability.
Yeah.
I go off because
it's the mother of all conflicts, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
If you think about it. What do you do? I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you're actually torn between the two, because that surely must happen with some people. They're thinking about, oh my goodness, I need to provide, I need stability, maybe I've got a family, but on the other hand, I'm freedom. So this is not.
No, repeat that again for me, please.
Well, I imagine some people are coming into this adventure of thinking that they want to set up a business, and they're torn between these two things. They, on the one side, they're thinking, well, I need some stability because I need to provide home and some, a place, and I've got a family and so forth. But on the other hand, they are seeking freedom, or they think they're seeking freedom. So how do you manage this conflict? You're saying they have to choose.
You have to choose. You really do have to choose for your health.
Okay.
For your health. For example, this one entrepreneur, male, starting to have CEO that moved into the entrepreneurial life, starting to have a little bit of prostate problems. Okay. So, let's look at the urinary tract and what it means in animal behavior. Animals with urine mark their territory. So animals with their urine, they mark their territory to say, this is my piece of where I reproduce and get food, so don't come into my area. They mark their territory for stability. So when a client has that kind of issue and they're an entrepreneur, then I can say, well, is this the first time you've only had this in your entrepreneur life? Because it means that if you're, leaking the PP and things like that, you're trying to mark territory. But you know what? A freedom person has no territory. The real entrepreneur has no place because the world is yours. The universe is yours. You can go anywhere and do anything. You don't have to mark a territory. I'm here. And that's the big thing. When I encourage, let's say, CEOs to if they're wanting to migrate into the entrepreneurial life, one, it's best if it's gradual. You can do things on the weekend to set up some kind of business so you can get the stability, and then totally transition out of there. Because if people are stability people, it's part of your DNA. It really is part of your DNA, and you have health consequences because you're not respecting an overall DNA kind of program. So one thing is the mind, and that's what marketing is about. Marketing is about triggering triggering levers about having you desire what you don't have. Not necessarily biologically for your health is that what you need. So I find that there are lots of ways to create stability, even as an entrepreneur. But that's the first thing you look at, not how do I have more freedom? My choice was, how do I have more freedom? How do I have more freedom being home enough to raise my kids, take them to school, pick them up to school? And that came with corporate training, which, I told people to be more effective as a corporate trainer. There's no reason why we sit here together for 8 hours. You are more focused and concentrated if we all have breakfast together and we start and we go from 8 to 2, or we go from, 7:30 to 1:30, and we have, a snack in the middle, but we have one break during this whole time. We're focused and concentrated. So even how I structured corporate training days, they are only 5-hour training days, because the afternoon is wasted. People are too tired. So, even, and that way I could, get home to pick up my kids. But, it had advantages for productivity and concentration. And everyone needs to, respect, their energy, their biology, their biorhythms. As an entrepreneur, you really have to get clear what works best for you. For example, if you are an entrepreneur and you're going online and you're looking up morning routine, well, tell me, do you have like a routine that you suggest to people?
I don't. I think I need to work on my morning routine. It's not the best.
Well,
it's chaos at the moment. It's case of chaos. It's about getting up, and getting kids to school and so forth. But it is routine, but I wouldn't say it's the most energy driven one.
Well, if you, when you know yourself, like, some people will say have a morning routine, get up or meditate or do exercise, have a big breakfast. I wake up after this oniric state, and I have so much creativity from, let's say, 6 to 7 before my kids wake up, or sometimes 5:30 to 7, that I'm just writing notes. And I'm really just connecting to a bigger purpose and seeing a vision, 3 years, 5 years down the road. And if I would jump into, taking a shower or doing exercise, I would lose that immense creative flow. So knowing myself, I get into my creative flow, and then when there's, kids and their breakfast, I might be doing like exercises for my arms while they're doing their breakfast, or, things like this, strength exercises, or a little bit of Tai Chi. And then, I don't eat breakfast until maybe 11 in the morning, because food will slow me down. As an entrepreneur, you really got to be clear of what your creative time is. When does that come? When is your downtime? For example, I will start to get tired, let's say at around 2:30, and that is when I will get on my rebounder. And so I will do, like 20 minutes of rebounding, jumping on my trampoline. That gets the lymphatic system moving. It gets me into energy flow. Or, I might take a 20-minute nap, or I might take, do a 20-minute meditation kind of thing. You, as an entrepreneur, you need to really feel your energy levels. When are you in your creative mode? When are you in just get kind of stuff done mode that's low priority, like social media posting? Or you don't need a brain to do that. You just push buttons, because you will get so much more done when you are aligned to who you are. And now, as an add-on to that, especially with the expat entrepreneurs that we know, who have, let's say, a spouse who is not a freedom person, but a stability person. So a big thing that I find as a conflict within the family, when there are these two types of people, is that the stability person has a 9-to-5 job and then they want the family time. Well, what happens, Mr. or Mrs. Entrepreneur, when all of a sudden you are in your creative flow from 10 to 2 in the morning or from 6 to 9, and you really don't want to have dinner with the family because you're doing something that makes you come alive. Entrepreneurs need good communication skills once they know who they are, why they're here, once they have found within themselves their productivity schedule, because they know when they're in the flow, because flow is finding your comfort zone, the visionary in the garage, the consultant, in the communication with others. You have to respect that, and the people that live with you have to respect that, even if they are different. This is my creative flow. This is why I'm an entrepreneur. And so then the scheduling of the family time is sort of on a different thing. Here in Italy, everyone's like, well, oh my God, my ex-husband. It's like, it's 1:00. In Italy, we eat at 1:00. And I was like, well, I had breakfast at 11:30. So, I'm ready to take a pause at like 2:30. Well, you can imagine, like, things like that became a conflict. Oh, you don't want to eat with me, or no, but I'm hungry and you're not. Entrepreneurs, we've got so much on our plate that goes beyond just our business. It's the communication with the people around us. It's I
understand. I think I had a similar experience preparing for this interview between 10 and midnight last night. So yes, I mean, we have a family household, very, very much as you describe, it's not always straightforward because when you're really clear on your vision, your mission, and you lovingly ask for cooperation and collaboration, hey, I'm really in the flow at this time of day. When I close the door, it means do not disturb because I'm creating. And, this is what in my business, what I'm creating, I can see that this is impacting lives. And this is, and you share that vision with your loved ones. And, it's a really big help when you don't knock on the door, or when, and so let's find time between when you're home, when I'm home, and for freedom people, especially if you are who I said, the freedom people, you will begin to be irritated, which lowers your energy level if your family members are not allowing you the freedom to function as you best biologically, biorhythmically, personality-wise, soul-wise function. And that kind of energy drain will show up in your business productivity. It'll show up as it'll create tension in relationships. There's so much more, because there's the human being. It's you first. This is an example in a video series I'll be, putting out soon. So you are, with your energy potential, you are this big balloon. You're a big balloon, and you can rate your energy from 1 to 10. If it's 7, I think, this is what I tell people: energy is the only thing that exists. It's the only conversation we should really be having. So your energy, which means you're confident, you're clear, you're not drained by silly, ridiculous discussions with anyone. Your energy, because energy is the only thing that exists, your energy is what counts. So first, it's you knowing who you are, your biorhythms, then lovingly communicating that to other people, respecting scheduling your day to be productive based on you and your flow. What people need to understand is you are this balloon container. Now, imagine you have another balloon, you pick up a balloon, there's no air in it, and this balloon is going to be your business. So you put the balloon to your mouth and you go,
you blow up the balloon that is your business. What fills your business is your energy. The energy that you put into blowing up that balloon, the air that you put into blowing up the balloon, can never exceed the energy that you have. So if you are consistently from 1 to 10 on a 7, maybe the balloon that you blow up, which is your business, maybe on a good day, it'll be 5 out of 10. That means that the energy of your business is only running at 50%. So you can't work on your business. You have to work on your energy, because it's your energy that is creating that business. So I have really, I have very highly specialized research and abilities and training in energy. So as a personal story, one of my favorite cousins, who has 4 kids like me, except one of his children was handicapped, he had developed cancer back in 2004. And I got this flash of information and just said, Diana, you have to find a spiritual healer for your cousin. And that took me in coincidences of meeting a shaman in the Paris airport while I was flying to America. That took me to Brazil a few times, and I took the picture of my cousin who had cancer for a healing on him. So when I talk about energy, it's because energy is the only thing that exists, and it has healing power. It has creative power. So, I've worked with spiritual healers, took my children even to Brazil. I've worked with, so when I talk about energy, it's not from books. It's from seeing how energy catalyzes healing and change in people. And so even, this is a big thing to say, but we're in a holographic universe. Everything is geometric. And so when I say that you are a balloon, you are a geometric, holographic, moving thing in this life experience. And when you're blowing up that balloon, which is your business, that business has its own energetic, holographic, geometric form. It is a form. It's a living being. And, people, I coach with like light kind of metaphors, like a balloon. There's so much more that when you understand the principles of how to up-level your holographic geometric form of an energy vibration to then blow up your balloon, which is an energy form, geometric form of its own that has a life of its own, you can shift what you work on and how you improve as yourself and how you make your business improve, because you don't work on the business, you work on yourself, and you transfer that energy to the business. That was a big thing.
Well, I mean, if I go back, and you mentioned before in some notes that when things weren't going so well at the beginning, when you were getting your business set up, I think you said it was your dad that said to you, "Why don't you get a job?" Why didn't you? What stopped you? What was going on there? Why did you carry on?
Oh yeah, no. Well, because I am innately a freedom seeker. It's impossible for me to have a boss that's not me and my higher guidance. It's impossible. And that, I was like, oh my God, if I would have to go and work for someone and follow their rules no, I am my own energy. And, it's not an option, but that comes even more because of my life experience, knowing that I'm a freedom seeker. When I graduated from college, my parents' graduation present for me was a trip around Europe with some friends. And when I traveled through Italy, I mean, I had all these flashing pictures going off. I say flashes like intuitions. This is where I belong. This is where I have to be. And one of my college girlfriend's father worked at the embassy in Rome, and you know about Rome. So we went to dinner, and I said, I have to stay in Europe. I know I have to stay. There's this voice, there's this inner knowing that says I have to stay. What can I do to stay? And he said, well, the easiest thing is to become an au pair, which is a babysitter. And so when we were traveling through Germany, and I had studied German, I went to the consulate, and I think, can I stay and be a babysitter? Yeah, sure. So we finished our trip, and we were in London, and I said, okay, it's do or die kind of situation. Yeah. And I got this big bag of coins. And back then, we're talking about 1984. And I'm in this phone booth under Big Ben. And I have a picture I took recently, a picture of the same phone booth. And I'm pumping in the coins. And I call my dad. And he was in a business meeting, had to get the secretary to get him out of the business meeting. And I said, I'm going to stay in Europe. I'm not going to be on the plane tomorrow. And I ran out of coins, so the telephone call finished really fast. His comment was, no, you're going to be a flower child being a hippie all over Europe. No, come home. And I tell you one thing, the phone line, then went dead. And when I took my girlfriends to the airport to leave, and I on purpose left my backpack at Victoria Station, when I put them on the plane and I went back to that train to then go down to Germany, to Munich, that was the most beautiful sensation of being at peace with myself. I was so zero fear. A woman alone, 22-year-old alone, not speaking perfect German, I spoke some, but feeling called. And this is what entrepreneurs really need to understand. When you feel called to something, and that feeling called to something, you have to reconnect with that feeling inside of you every day. This is the meaning that we were talking about. And that feeling of independence and freedom, and I'm just here being myself, and I was alone on a train, and the feeling that I had is so undescribable. And I'm sure that the listeners have that, of I am in the right place. I'm on the train, I'm traveling, there's a new destination, there's new things. This is where I'm supposed to be. Priceless. And so when my dad said, oh, well, if you can't sort of figure out the business thing being a freelance, then go get a job. Man, I remember that feeling. No, me, freedom, traveling the world. And and it's important because there will be days of ups and downs where you're going to want the paycheck. You're going to want but when you connect on an energetic level, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing. And, I'm taking this conversation a little bit higher. Let's say to an energy, if you want to call it spiritual realm, call it whatever you want. But, energy is the only thing that exists.
Let's repeat. For you, all roads lead to energy. That is not necessarily to Rome, but
all roads must lead to energy because it's the only thing that exists. Light and sound. It's the only thing that exists. And that's why sound energy is how we talk to ourselves, the words we say to ourselves. You better have positive self-talk. Light is knowing who yourself, knowing who you are, brings light energy into your body because our cells are quantum. Our cells thrive on light. That's why in quantum physics, the observer influences what is being observed because they're both quantum. There's light in our cells. You gotta know how to bring light into your cells. A lot of people will meditate. A lot of people, which brings light into your cells. A lot of people will do like yoga, which will unblock the energy blockages that are keeping more light into your cells. Training, the whole training industry that we're in, this is part of my mission, is to up-level the training industry because you can't work on mindset anymore. Why? Because the mind doesn't exist. Science does not know where the mind exists. You need to work on energy because energy exists. You need to work on the principles of the brain because the brain exists. And so how do we get the brain functioning? How do we get your DNA functioning? How do we get you up leveling your energy so you can work on sound energy, which is the words you say to yourself. You can work on light energy, your vision, be clear on that. Those are things you can tangibly work on that gets you results faster than anything like just mindset. That's sort of a bluff. And that's why so many mindset classes are out there, because they don't get people results. So anyway, I like to take conversations. Why? I like to take conversations to a very high level, because Einstein said you cannot solve a problem on the same level of consciousness that created it. You can't work on the same level. You have to go up in a hierarchy. There's hierarchy of problems, and the solutions come when you work on a higher level. That's why I say when you work on the highest level, which is energy, everything from top down flows easier.
So the basic how-to type problems that any entrepreneur is going to face, and you told me before that you had some struggles with tech and technology and all of that, but that's of a lower order. I mean, you solve them, but this was not something that was overwhelming you, because the bigger questions were the ones that were worrying you.
Well, very recently, I changed the company that I had all my opt-in pages on. I wasn't finding they were beneficial, a little bit outdated. There were things that I couldn't do on the thank you page. And I ask a question, a clear question. I need to find on the how to create better opt-in pages. I need to find a technology thing, how to. That's like how, but I connect on a higher level. My mission, my branding is colorful. My mission is to offer this. I'm a teacher. I value excellence. In the next couple of days, nudge me to find some kind of app or some kind of provider for that. Well, the next day I'm just playing around. This is where an entrepreneur needs to understand synchronicity. When you're in the flow, when you got clear answer, clear question, and you're in the flow, expect synchronicity. My life is now very based, and has pretty much always been, from London in 1984, just feeling this is where I got to be. And I was sort of taking like my coffee break kind of thing. And I don't know why I click, open different pages. And all of a sudden this app comes, absolutely amazing. Instead of, €97 a month, I can solve it for €29 a month, or maybe it's even in dollars, which is cheaper. Outstanding opt-in thank you pages, web pages, absolutely amazing. So I didn't do all the low level, just research. I waited until somehow I was nudged. Now's the time to go clicking through those pages. And entrepreneurs, you must treasure your alone time. And entrepreneurs, really, you must not allow yourself to be distracted. You really have to get in. This is my message. This is what I'm bringing to the world. This is what I'm doing, my service or my business or a product or whatever. And when you're just really in the flow of that, then you stay on it. You just stay on it. I mean, I will have days where sometimes my kids are like, how do you still have so much energy? You've been in front of the computer for 16 hours. And I'm like, you guys just cook, and I'll just eat. Because of how I work, my productivity flows when I'm starting to get into something that's a creative process. I could pretty much not get up from the computer for days, and I'll crank that in, and it'll last forever. But that's very individual. So I would, you know, that's why entrepreneurs need to find their biorhythmic, creative kind of space. You know, I can help people with that, but it is so vital to, it's so vital to your productivity,
So looking ahead, what's next?
Oh, what's next is getting structured, finally, set up systems with algorithms that people can get their personality profile. So that will be set up in a pretty kind of automatic way, which is like hands off. So people can get their personality profile. There's a video series, there's a webinar series. And what I'm really here for is to teach coaches and trainers and HR personnel, my methodology, the coaching methodology, which is based on a scientific personality profile, so people know who they are, why they hear, and the conversation that we've had. People, when you know yourself organically, the rest comes. But it's the clarity of knowing yourself. So, I help success coaches in that period where success coaches, they have the how-tos their clients need to do, but they don't know who their client is. So very often how they're guiding their client is off, it's misaligned with what the client should be doing based on their personality. And that is that's where, I have a lot of people that have invested, tens and thousands of dollars for a success coach and not been able to comfortably implement the strategies because there was a misalignment with personality and innate talents and approach. And so, I have clients that say, I really did. I threw, 10,000 out the window because at a certain point it didn't fit. And so, I help success coaches first have their clients understand who they are so the rest really fits who they are. And even like relationship coaches, having that, communication where family members know who they are through the personality profile, and then the relationship coaches help them in communication so they really do support each other. And, life coach as well, life coaching is not a scientific process. It is just asking people what they want. And I can be very controversial that people know what they want because they don't. I have hundreds of client questionnaires that confirm that people do not know what they want. And so, life coaching can really be taken to a next level because even when my clients on a pre-coaching questionnaire filled out what they wanted, once they were in the process of coaching, that totally changed. And a lot of times what people want is something as a diversive to the pain they're in right now. A lot of middle-aged women will maybe want to set up their business, and that's because they have a sexless marriage or they don't get along with their kids, or it's really coaching is really beautiful. For me, because people really open up and they share their intimate what's really going on with them. So for me, it is doing more train the trainer, training coaches worldwide in this methodology to really bring the coaching industry to a whole new level that is scientific, based on the brain, what exists, based on energy, to make things easier for people. Because when you're connected to who you are and why you're here, you really are in the flow. That is your operating mode.
So you got a website. Obviously, people can go there to find out more about that. It's dianadentinger.com, and I'll put it in the show notes afterwards. And
yeah, super. Yeah, there's a freebie. I have like a free quiz page to get people to understand, there are different personality types. You're not just one of 4 types. So I invite people to opt in to take a personality quiz because the first step is understanding you are so much more than who you think you are. And when you finally connect to that who you are so much more, things are easier. You get all that self-doubt out of your daily habit. Okay.
So I like to just conclude on one question, which I like to ask everyone. And if it's your time to give back, and Who would you like to mentor and why?
Oh, I love to mentor children. I find with having 4 kids of my own, and I would say children, teenagers, or even, I could get up to the millennials. Children still remember who they are. Can I tell you a story about this?
Of course.
It'll take a little bit, but it'll take a couple minutes. This is really beautiful. So I was doing family coaching. And as I explained before, I look at the personality profile and I ask very precise questions. So there's a teenager, and she, we're doing the family coaching. So I do sort of one person at a time. There's the 5 members of the family sitting around, and I explain the personality of each of the people at a time, so they each get to know each other. And there's little exercises they do and that kind of stuff, and it's all very positive. So I get to the oldest teenager, and I say, okay, well, I look at your personality profile, and I know you're thinking beyond just, high school, sort of college, like what to do with your life. And I see that there's something about women. There's something about justice. There's something about, though, being a leader, protecting. What does that say to you? And she says, oh, yeah. I've always known that I've wanted to be a lawyer to protect women that are rape victims. Came out in a split second. The parents are looking like, we've never heard her say that. The only thing parents are concerned about is, are they doing their homework? Are they eating right? Are they getting exercise? Are they doing their swimming lessons, piano lessons? Very low level questions in parenting. It's not who you are, why you're here. And so, she's just real convinced, very confident, came out in a split second. After, I go through the rest of the personality, and it's very beautiful. It's very loving. Then we take a break, and the mom takes me in the kitchen. We get something to eat, and she goes, Diana, I can't believe you asked that question. And I thought I overstepped my boundaries. And so I was like, oh, gosh, sorry. She said, no. We never told our children that my sister, before they were born, my sister was assassinated. And they never found out. It was like case closed. They never found out who or why or motive. And so what does that tell me? That tells me, since we inherit emotional memory, it's on a higher consciousness level, whether you get told a story or not. That daughter, in her consciousness field of energy and inner knowing and in her DNA, she knows that she's here to make sure that what happened to an aunt that she never met never happens again. And that's why
amazing.
It is so amazing, because it really changes the game to a whole new level. And so, we do all this blah, 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 blah talking, where when you can ask a teenager very, very precise questions, they have an answer like that because it's in their consciousness knowing, where it takes a little bit longer for adults because there's so many layers of conditioning and who I have to be, a good daughter, a good son, a good husband, a good wife, this kind of stuff. Kids are so fast at that knowing. And when they connect to that knowing and they're supported, as in, go for it, and what they do in their free time and the research they do and the activities they do, when that is channeled into them being the best and mastering that thing for why they came here, that's how the world's going to change. Because you're not going to have people just messing around, distracting themselves for hours a day, nullifying who they are in front of Netflix and Facebook and social media. They're going to be involved in their life. They are going to really be who they are. And that is when more people experience the synchronistic energies of, these teenagers, I need to be on social media, but because I'm a fan of that person, or connecting and the videos and learning from each other, that's where there's going to be, just like the brain, a neural network of highly focused people living their life purpose and expanding an energy field of change, of positive change, that will really globally impact. And that starts with getting these teenagers and young adults so much more aligned with what they already know inside of them, but their parents or the schools don't have the questions to ask them, so they remember.
Amazing story, Diana. Really fascinating.
It is. It's such a fascinating. Yeah. It's every client has amazing rememberings, and that really reinforces my, affirmation that we are all unique human beings here for a reason. And the sooner we know that, the more energy we have, the more we connect to amazing synchronistic people, like how you and I connected. And, that's getting more energy flow, positive energy, to create change.
Well, Diana, I just want to say thank you. We got to bring it to a close now, but I just want to say thank you again. I want to say thank you on behalf of all the people that you help as well, for what you for all the energy that you help them, untap in their lives, and how you're forcing them to make this choice between freedom and stability. I need to think about that one, but thank you. And I just want to acknowledge that. And I hope we'll do this again in the future.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Alex, for having me. From one expat to another.
Thank you.
Ciao, bello. Bye-bye now. Thank you.